First thing I heard wasn't a siren. It was my own name, as pronounced coming through a phone speaker on the hood of a patrol car. The second thing I heard was dispatch pausing, then asking a question that changed everything. "Caller, can you confirm the spelling?" Because we recognized this voice. Across the cul-de-sac, Karen's jaw dropped. She had dialed 911 with the confidence of someone who'd weaponized that number before. What she didn't expect was that the dispatcher knew my cadence, my phrasing, my calm. And in that moment, her false report began to unravel in front of neighbors, officers, and cameras she didn't know were recording. I moved into Pine Hollow Estates for one reason: quiet. After 20 years working in emergency management, most of it coordinating between agencies, training dispatchers, and responding to disasters, I wanted a place where my weekends were silent and my nights uninterrupted. Pine Hollow promised that: wide streets, mature trees, modest homes, and an HOA that advertised itself as hands-off. The problem with promises is that they're often written by people who don't plan to keep them. Within weeks, I learned Pine Hollow's HOA wasn't hands-off at all. It was hands-on, gloves-off, and run by a woman named Karen, who treated the neighborhood like a stage and herself like the director. She enforced rules that didn't exist, invented fines, and used her phone like a badge. When neighbors pushed back, she pushed harder: emails, letters, public shaming. I kept my head down. I followed the rules. I waved, smiled, and minded my business. That's the thing about people like Karen. Your silence reads as permission. It started with a driveway. On a Saturday morning, I parked my pickup a foot past the edge of my own concrete while unloading lumber. I was building shelves in my garage. The truck sat there for 20 minutes. Karen appeared like a storm cloud. She took photos. She measured with a tape she kept in her purse. She lectured me about sight lines and emergency access, quoting regulations I knew didn't apply. When I calmly told her I'd move the truck as soon as I'd finished unloading, she smiled the way people do when they're already planning something worse. That afternoon, I received an email from the HOA alleging I had blocked a fire lane and endangered residents. It included a fine and a warning of further action. I replied politely with photos of the truck fully within my property and a copy of the community map. Karen didn't respond. 2 days later, she escalated. I was in my backyard repairing a fence when 2 patrol cars rolled into the cul-de-sac. Lights flashing but sirens off. Neighbors peeked through curtains. A drone of whispers followed the cruisers. An officer approached me, calm, professional. "Sir, we received a call reporting a domestic disturbance and threats involving a firearm." I blinked. "That's not accurate." "I understand." He said, "Let's talk." I complied. Hands visible. Slow movements. The officer glanced at my hands, my belt, my posture. He could tell I knew the drill. Karen stood across the street, phone pressed to her ear, narrating. "She's still on the line," the officer said quietly. I felt the shift. False reports aren't just annoying. They're dangerous. They get people hurt. As the officer spoke into his radio, I recognized the voice that answered back. Not just recognized, trained. I'd spent years in conference rooms, simulators, and live centers working with dispatchers. I knew how they sounded when they were alert, skeptical, careful. The dispatcher asked a series of clarifying questions that didn't come from Karen's script. Karen's narration grew frantic. "He's lying," she insisted. "He's threatening me. He has a gun. I saw it." The officer looked at me. "Do you have any firearms on you right now?" "No," I said. "They're secured, unloaded, and locked. I'm willing to consent to whatever you need." He nodded. Dispatch came back on. "Officer, can you ask the subject to speak directly? We need confirmation." I leaned toward the radio. "Dispatch, this is," I gave my name. "For clarity, I've coordinated with your center during the flood response last year and the wildfire drills before that." Silence. Then stand by. Karen's face tightened. She paced. She gestured. She talked louder as if volume could drown truth. Neighbors gathered. Phones came out. Dispatch returned. "Officer, we recognize the voice. This caller has made multiple unsubstantiated reports today from the same number. Please advise the reporting party that false reporting is a criminal offense. The officer exhaled. Karen froze. The officer crossed the street to Karen. Another officer joined him. They spoke quietly at first. Karen's voice rose. "I have rights," she shouted. "He's dangerous. I'm protecting this community." The officer's tone remained even. "Ma'am, dispatch has concerns about the accuracy of your report." Karen jabbed a finger toward me. "He's manipulating you. He knows the system." I stayed where I was, hands visible, calm. The officer returned to me. "Sir, thank you for your cooperation. We're going to resolve this." Across the street, Karen's posture collapsed as the officers explained consequences. False reporting. Misuse of emergency services. Potential charges, neighbors murmured. Someone laughed nervously. Karen demanded to speak to a supervisor. Dispatch answered that request too. A supervisor arrived, body cam on. He listened, he asked Karen to recount the events in order. Her story changed small details at first, then big ones. Times didn't match. Threats evaporated. The firearm became something metal. The supervisor looked at the call log on his tablet, compared timestamps with body cam footage and neighbor videos. "Ma'am," he said, "this doesn't align." Karen's voice cracked. "You're taking his side." "We're taking the facts," the supervisor replied. Dispatch chimed in again. Supervisor additional note. Caller attempted to influence call handling by claiming personal authority within the HOA. No such authority recognized. That did it. Karen was cited for false reporting and misuse of emergency services. Not arrested, but warned, documented, and placed on notice. The HOA, president someone quieter, less theatrical arrived, late and pale, apologizing to everyone. Within earshot, Karen glared at me as the officers left. I met her eyes. "Please don't do this again." She turned away. The fallout was swift. Within a week, the HOA sent a letter rescinding the fine and apologizing for the incident. Karen resigned. From the board, citing health reasons, the neighborhood calmed. Dispatch sent me a note through official channels thanking me for my professionalism and reminding me gently not to hesitate to report harassment. Neighbors stopped by with cookies, with questions. With relief, I rebuilt my fence and the driveway. It's been empty ever since. Power without accountability invites abuse. Systems work when truth is louder than theater and when the people inside those systems remember why they exist. If you're ever targeted by a false report, stay calm, stay visible, and let facts do the talking. And if you're tempted to weaponize a phone call, remember, someone on the other end might recognize your voice. Subscribe to the HO Karen Diaries channel for more real-life HOA karma stories, land order twists, and satisfying resolutions.